So I love to party, and so do a lot of people. There are so many different types of parties, from frat parties and sorority parties to underground parties and raves to gay bars and dance hall parties, house parties, strip clubs, concerts, mosh pits, sports bars, karaoke bars, Caribbean dance parties, Freaknik, drag, and so much more. Partying has also hit the mainstream and pop culture in an aesthetic way, with the Brat album and indie sleaze trending. Some say this is due to the recession, as pop music makes a comeback during times of financial hardship, and we will of course be talking a bit about capitalism. But this episode is really asking, why do we party? Because I selfishly wanted to figure out this question for myself. And it isn't a So Wet, So Dry episode without discussions of sex, relationships, and our politicized identities. So we're gonna go there. This is my love letter and middle finger to partying or the rest of society. I don't really know yet, but let's get into it.
Bitch, what I was trying to say is this situation got me so wet and so dry at the same time. Exactly.
What's up, bitches? Welcome back to another episode of So Wet, So Dry. I'm one of your hosts, Autumn, like the season, and I am so fucking over these bitches. Everyone's like, be queer, be into women. Don't do it, y'all. And I work in entertainment.
And I'm your other host, Fiji, like the island, like the water. I won the senior high school class superlative of life of the party, and I work in social media and marketing. So in this episode, we're gonna talk a lot about partying and community. We're gonna talk about partying in queerness, partying in drag, partying as performance, partying how it relates to our identity. And we're going to try to come to a conclusion of why the fuck do we party? And is it like a net good or a net bad? Because I'm still kind of fucking undecided. But first, we're going to start with Brat, of course. I feel like we've been talking about Brat so much in the past year in all of our episodes. It's too hot to not talk about it.
Should. And So Wet, So Dry, green, baby.
Yes, we had the green first, bitch. Okay. So this album, not only is it like a huge pop culture moment, but like I actually really genuinely fucking loved this album.
Oh my God. And the music videos.
The music videos, the
so
aesthetics.
Inspiring.
And that's something to think about too, like the way, like some of these pictures that I'll put on the screen, and then of course the Grammys performance. A lot of Brat was taking partying as performance art, right? Like they are performing the party for the album. Like it's an aesthetic now. A lot of people who don't even party are like taking the aesthetic. But as someone who has always partied and loves partying, this album like definitely spoke to me because it has like the messy sides of things.
Yes.
The like super lit, like immediate, I need this right now. Let me do a bump. Let me get lit, like da-da-da. And then also the like, I'm hungover in bed and like my time clock is running out and do I want a baby? And like, I'm jealous of this other girl and like all of that raw realness.
Yes.
CharlieXCX gets so vulnerable on this album, and I think that's why it struck a nerve with so many people. That and people were so excited to see her be so successful after being a pretty underground artist. But she talks about real shit. I mean, everything from her like friend Sophie dying to like, you know, her relationship with her body and like being a woman and all of those things.
Right.
But there's another video essay by Alex Avila called Brat and the Culture of Addiction. We're not going to talk about capitalism too much in this episode, guys, but if you want to know more about Brat and the kind of, he calls it pharmo-pornographic era that talks about like the immediacy of the album. Like there's a lot of like right now, like let's do a bump. Like it's all like I need everything immediately. Yeah. And also the capitalism of it, because it's like everything is romantic, kind of like how we're being seduced to like buy more goods all of the time, which was a really interesting take on the album. And he also talks about hyperpop in general and how it's like kind of a manifestation of capitalism and the recession and all of those things that I had kind of mentioned in the beginning. But we're not going to go super into that side of things. We're going to focus more on like our identities as queer people, as marginalized communities, as like needing to have an escape from other forms of stuff. But I do think that's a really good video essay if you guys want to know more about specifically addiction and the capitalism side of partying. But with Charlie, even though she's not queer, a lot of queer people like picked up this album and
Bro,
loved
because
it.
why did I think she was? Like,
Right.
And not even with Brat, like before that. Like, I just think it's because she has a lot of queer supporters where it just like made me, I remember every like gay girl at Emerson was like so CharlieXCX like that freshman year. I always thought she was. And then I learned she wasn't when Billie Eilish was like, Charlie likes boys, but she knows I'd hit it. So, anyway.
Well, and I think it has to do with, I mean, Charlie worked really closely with Sophie, you know, her friend that passed away. Like, a lot of the producers and other music artists that she worked really closely with are queer. And, you know, she did the Boiler Room sets, raves. Like, those spaces are generally queer. And we're going to talk about this more throughout the episode. But there is a big, huge queer influence on nightlife in general. Like, I don't think nightlife would be what the fuck it is without queer people. And it's like, that's why I mentioned at the beginning, you have Alex Earl and like you have like frat and sorority houses and like that type of very specific college partying. But like the type of partying that exists more into your adulthood, like later 20s, 30s kind of situation is what I'm thinking of. And even we were going to these parties, when we were in college because we went to a very queer school. But a lot of like rave culture, boiler rooms, those types of things are very like inherently queer. And that's the type of music that she makes. So I think they like link up a lot.
Yeah.
Right. But speaking of queer icons, so Troye Sivan, do you know who he is?
The fuck, yes, I do. Finally, I know something Fiji, what she's talking about. Yes, I do know who that is.
Okay, love. So Troye Sivan opened for her on her tour, another queer pop icon. And it's funny because Troye Sivan actually was one of the first famous people to discover Chappell Roan in 2014, back when Chappell Roan went by Kaylee Rose.
Yeah.
Troye Sivan found Chappell on YouTube and tweeted, "Oh my God, you have to hear her voice. She sounds like Adele, like whatever." So this is also why this moment is so fucking dope, because we have like queerness at the like highest level, and then like these people that are all like low-key connected from the underground like coming up. And I found out that information from Nikki Reardon and his YouTube video essay, The Untold Lore of Chappell Roan. I listened to his podcast too. He's really cool, guys, so definitely check him out. But I do want to talk about Chappell Roan as well with this whole partying thing going on, because she specifically designs her sets, creates her concert, wrote her album to be party music. She said that she wanted like happy party songs to perform on stage, and she's all about building that kind of like party culture. Totally. So we're gonna look at Pink Pony Club and the lyrics and talk about it a little bit to start us off.
So some of Chappell's lyrics for this song are, "I'm up and jaws are on the floor, lovers in the bathroom and a line outside the door, black lights and a mirror disco ball. Every night's another reason why I left it all. I thank my wicked dreams, a year from Tennessee. Oh, Santa Monica, you've been too good to me. Won't make my mama proud. It's gonna cause a scene. She sees her baby girl. I know she's gonna scream. God, what have you done? You're a pink pony girl and you dance at the club. Oh, mama, I'm just having fun on the stage in my heels. It's where I belong. Down at the Pink Pony Club." And then she sings it more.
I'm going to keep on. Yes. And obviously this song is about her leaving her very small town in Missouri, I believe it is, because she's the Midwest princess.
Is it not Tennessee? Didn't she say that?
Yeah, but she's originally from Missouri. Maybe she was in Tennessee.
Her roots.
Yeah, first, but she's from
maybe
ton
it
of
rhymes.
like 5,000 people. Yeah, 6,000 people. But she grew up in a really small town in the Midwest, which is why the album's called Rise and Fall of the Midwest Princess. And then moved to LA to pursue her dreams. And this song is kind of her just like reflecting on like, you know, what would her mother think of her being at this like queer gay bar. And it's based off of the Abbey in West LA, which I know you've been to.
Bitches, every lesbian, bisexual girl. That's like, it's like there are more lesbian spots, but that's like the most like stereotypical one. So I know it really well, and honestly so relatable. Like I definitely like came from a small town to pursue my dreams in LA as well. With just in terms of like working in the industry. But honestly, like I love this song. It like really touches my heart. Like I am just getting into Chappell Roan now. I'm always late to everything, but I do feel like it's more authentic. Like I wasn't just like, oh, a queer pop star, let me be obsessed with her. I like took my time, and now I like definitely am. But even this music video and just this whole idea, like it really does give the strip club to me, and like I relate to it in that way, because it's like, you know, my mom doesn't know I did
what
that,
would your mom
and like
think?
she would be horrified and like have a mental breakdown. Like I'm not doing it anymore, but I just know it would be like that. And there is just something about LA, like that's why I wanted to move here. Like there is something in the air here that like is like the land of opportunities. It does feel like that. And this, like one of the biggest reasons I came here besides the industry was because like the queer communities in Boston is definitely lacking. And it's probably just because there's not as many people out there, whatever. But I really wanted like queer community, and it was a huge reason I decided to come here. So like I totally hear her and like relate to everything she says in this, honestly. So.
Yeah. And with this, we can start to see how much like partying and going to bars is like tied to your identity, right? Because like Chappell Roan is struggling with her like past identity, the identity that she grew up with, being like a Midwest princess, like small town girl, like close with her family, whatever, to moving to a big city, trying to become a star, like meeting other queer people, like finding herself, like dancing, like all of those things, which I think is a very like coming of age thing for people to go through, especially like I can relate to like going to the city for college and stuff like that. Like you're like out of your family's nest. They're not bothering you about what time you're going to be home. You want to go out, you want to get lit. You're like finding yourself.
Like you feel like limitless in a way. And I just feel like I always, like, we always talk about, like, the strip club is, like, an alternate universe. And it's, like, I would feel like a different universe when I'm in, like, a queer space that's, like, a queer party space. Right. And I feel like that's, like life. Like, it's, like, every space that you're in is, like, different. And, like, even when we were talking about cringe, like, what would be cringe someplace wouldn't be somewhere else.
Right.
And, like, I've literally never felt, like, more comfortable and accepted than, like, in these queer spaces and parties that I've been to. And like I don't really go out much right now, which is like a problem, and I want to learn why we party because I want to like love it again. But when I was out here for college in LA for that semester, I was going to queer space after queer space, and like literally like the best times of my life looking back.
Yes. Yeah, cuz you're like finding yourself. I feel like there's so much that I found about myself, like style, like meeting new people, like learning different ways of looking at life, just being like out and about, like at parties, you know what I'm saying? And usually it was with queer people. Like I think when we were in Boston, like we went to a good amount of queer bars because like they were the only ones we could get into.
I definitely had no problem getting bitches. Like they were there, but there wasn't a lot of dedicated spaces. Like you had to like be in the inn, and like it was underground. It wasn't obvious. Like you had to go find it.
Yeah.
Which is special too.
Yeah, and the bars there, like I remember before I even like kind of like came into my queer identity, those were the only bars we could get into with our fake IDs too. Remember? It was like what is the name of the gay guy bar in like Back Bay?
Oh yeah. Oh my God, that place was so fucking crazy. I forget, babe. You know, we were trying to remember.
Club Cafe. And then the Machine was the one in Cambridge. But I remember going to Club Cafe, and we're going to get into this more with a book called Gay Bar, Why We Went Out, that I really, really liked. I listened to the audiobook about it, but I remember going to Club Cafe, and it's like so many gay guys, like shirts off, like dancing on each other, like lots of testosterone, like the intensity, whatever. But there is something about like gay bars specifically that do have like a more freeing, like sexual sense. Like even the like gay, like guy bars, you know what I'm saying?
It's like, because like queerness is art, bro. Right. I swear to fucking God. Like, and it's just like crazy. Like even me having two moms, like, I'm so privileged. Like I've been in queer spaces my whole life without even like realizing like how fucking lucky I am to be like so exposed to like queer people and like you know, like wild. But yeah, I totally
But you weren't
feel
going
you.
to like bars like that with your moms. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right? No,
Like,
yeah, just like in general, like spaces and community.
Yes.
But yes, no,
Yes.
guys, I definitely wasn't. My mom, yeah.
yeah. But I think that they're like, we're already talking about like finding yourself in community and bars and clubs is such a thing.
And I think it's like finding like confidence. I feel like my confidence
Yes.
grew so much from like partying and like learning how to love it. And honestly, it's like I did party in high school, but I honestly feel like with you and like even our friend group before, like that was like okay. Like that was the partying that I want to do. And I feel like in high school, I was like, what the fuck? Like I always wanted some like underground like city shit. Like and our school did not have fraternities or sororities. So like we had to like make our fun and like go out and find
in the city.
I'm like 18, 19 years old. So it's really special.
Yeah, and I think that's it too, because when I think about like why I wanted to start partying, like I remember when I was in high school and stuff, like I do think a good amount of it was just like the cool factor, like the escape, like the getting drunk, like feeling like a different person, like the level of confidence that you get from being drunk or high or whatever.
Or just
but also
looking
like
hot.
Or just looking hot, but like also like in the city, like in college, like in London or in Boston or whatever, I think it was this like almost like calling to like go find people like you or find other people that showed you that the world was bigger and that there were more possibilities. Because I remember just feeling like I wanted to like experiment with my style. I wanted to meet different types of people, like have different types of experiences. And how else do you do that besides like going out at midnight and like meeting people in the depths of the fucking city? Like that is like where you make fucking like connections and like experiment with shit, whether it's like sexual, whether it's your style, whether it's your friend group
just
that
like
you hang
your
out with,
social
drugs.
skills, like
Yeah, exactly. Like there's something like about the nighttime and like going out on the scene where you just feel like you can kind of like let go of your past like daytime identity, like history, like who you are, whatever, and like become someone new.
right.
Kind of situation. But we asked you guys, why do you party? And this honestly surprised me, but it makes sense. 48% of you guys said a good time, dancing, and stress relief as the reason why you party. 44% said social time, friends, and networking. And then only 4%, tied both for 4%, was fashion, drag, and performance art. And then 4% for hookups, dating, and love. Like, honestly, this makes sense because it's like, okay, like, duh. Like, everyone goes out and drinks to relieve stress and have a good time or, like, to hang out with their friends.
Right.
I feel like maybe I answered performance art, but also I've been doing the research for this fucking episode, and that is, like, a lot of the conclusion that I'm going to bring us to by the end. But when I really deep it, like, I do think, like, escape, like social time, like all of those things are the reasons why I party. Like every single one of those is why I go out.
I think it's escapism, alcohol, and flirting for me, but like escapism is definitely number one. Like the night is like, I want to come alive. I just want to be out, live in the present moment, not think about literally anything.
Yep.
And just like, and I do like want to be like artful about it to an extent. Like I feel like I want to get there where like I'm going to the right spaces where I am partying to like see performance art and like be in like better spaces when I party and like be more intentional about that.
Well, and it's interesting you say it that way because I don't even mean, and I think I need to get us to get there. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm thinking of it as like you are partying and you
like
are the
I'm the art.
art.
No, yeah, I see it that way too.
Like you are performing a different identity. You are performing drag. Like you are performing like that, which we're gonna talk about more, so it makes sense. But I definitely agree with you, and I was thinking about that a lot. Like already planning this episode and coming to the conclusion of like, I think I am partying for the wrong reasons. Like a lot of times it is escape. I just want to be fucked tonight. Like I just want to like get drunk as fuck and not remember shit. Like it's for the addiction, bad, toxic reasons and not for like the reasons that it always like should be.
And it's for like when you watch movies and like music videos and like there's a girl in the back of the car and she's like going through a tunnel and she's like, oh my God, like her arms are up, she's standing up. Like I go out for like that moment. Like that's what I want to feel. Like I want to feel just like so free. Like I'm on a fucking like trip to Mars. Like just like, you know, like I just, And yeah, and I feel like, I mean, I've gone by different names in the past and like, it's so much fun. Like, even when I go to Starbucks or somewhere today, I'll be like, oh, my name's Amanda. Like, I just like, I like to just be like, whatever.
Yeah. So, and I think that's like part of stripping too, because we'll talk about it a little bit later. But like,
because stripping is partying to an extent. It's party culture. Like, as a stripper, you're working 1000%, but you're working within people that are partying in that type of environment. Like, the customers are partying. That's their release. That's their that. So it's like mixing work with party. Like, we always talk about sex work, but it's like within party culture. So yeah.
People go there to party. Yeah.
Right, bitch.
Right. Yeah. So the next one, we asked you guys, did you grow up / learn more about yourself from partying? And 76% of you guys said yes. 24% said no. I definitely the fuck did. I feel like like my parents were, I mean, I grew up in Catholic school, like I told you guys in the past. Like, my parents were conservative in the way that like they were really strict. They weren't like conservative values, like conservative Christian. Though we did go to church and stuff like that. But like, I did feel pretty sheltered in a lot of senses. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like for me, and they were so strict with my phone, like, and what I did online, that like for me, like those in-person time periods when I would say I was sleeping at one friend's house and I would actually be at a different one's. Yeah. That's like when I would really like learn more about like what's cool, like what's going on, like myself, like I always remember having like such a strong desire to just like escape from like home and just like be like figure out who I was, like be like crazy and stuff like that. And I think I did. I mean, I think I did the hard way in a lot of senses too. You know those like TikToks where it'll be like the girl, like it's like when you're like in the back of like some random dude's car, like listening to Wiz Khalifa in like 2016 at 4 a.m. And you're like
yes, like why was it
so
Wiz Khalifa?
Free?
No, literally that. Like, and that's so interesting. Like, I didn't grow up like that. Like, I didn't have strict parents. Like, I wasn't allowed to, like, wear thongs in middle school, like, type shit. But, like,
I was strange.
Like, I, like, sent nudes and, like, they got around the whole school. And my mom didn't, like, get me in trouble. Like, she held an intervention with, like, all my friends and their moms, like, how to protect me. Like, I was very, very, like, privileged. And I'm so lucky, like, for that. So it's interesting, but like, yeah, like I honestly, the first time I snuck out of my house, Fiji, I was 12 years old because I had a lot of older friends from dance and we would just like go to the park and like run around. Like, I don't even know. Yeah. And then it just got progressively like, okay, we're going to meet up with boys and like kids.
Right. And do like sexual shit. And, and it would go like badly sometimes. Like, I think about the times that I had, like, I thought I was being like free and like we talked about in our sex positive episode. Like, you think you're being like a grown woman and then you fuck someone and it's a terrible experience. And then like, you know, like I did a lot. And then I remember I got taken back to the police station when I was like 16. We got pulled over and I like was drunk and argued with the cop, and then my mom had to pick me up.
Not surprising.
It was I know. It was like, well, cuz he tried to, there was like a Jack Daniel's bottle on the side of the road and he pulled us over. Mind you, we had been smoking weed.
This story,
hotboxing the car. We had been smoking weed, hotboxing the car, and we had also just did coke. Like, we had just finished the bag. Like, thank God we finished the bag. But we finished the bag. And then we got pulled over by a woman cop and this dude, and she had like a drug dog. And they tried to point to a bottle on the side of the road and said that we like threw it out the car. And I was like, no, it's like disintegrated. Like, it's been there. Like, I know my rights. Like, bro, like I've always been so extra, but I was drunk and I was not like being respectful, which you're like supposed to do to the cop. So whatever, they made us get out of the car. They drug dog searched the car and they found some weed, but thankfully they were convinced they were gonna find coke, which they would have.
But y'all already
finished it. Right, and then then I kept arguing with him and I got taken back to the police station, which was not good for my like strict parents. But yeah, so like I learned, like I feel like I definitely put myself through more bad experiences than I probably should have, like throughout my life. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, hung out with like homeless, addicts, people going through really fucking bad shit, like taking in people to live in my home. Like, I feel like I have been like when I think about partying, like it is deeply connected to my identity because of like how much life I've lived in the nighttime. Like, you know what I'm saying? Right. But I think it's grown me. I think it's given me trauma but I wouldn't trade it. I don't know. Like I'm grateful for it. In a lot of ways.
It's just like so like I'm just at a point where I'm just like itching to like do it again. Like I really like it's like sad to me like that I haven't been doing it as much. But like the times that like I have, like I'm just like it just makes me feel like so free. And like obviously I've done it with you like so much. Like we like really bonded like through party culture, honestly. And like, you know, like loved each other as friends. So yeah, it's really special.
Next we asked, does partying help you deal with the stress and the mundanity, I don't really know how to say that word, of regular life? And 64% of you guys said yes. Only 37% said no. And this is kind of self-explanatory too. I feel like, I feel that way a lot right now. Like I have a boring corporate 9 to 5. I work from home. Like I need to go out to feel like I'm a functioning fucking human being.
And like life is like worth living. And like I know not everyone likes to party, but it's like I'm sure the people that don't like get that feeling from like doing other things.
Other stuff, yeah.
And like I've gotten it from doing other things too, like taking like a dance class or whatever. Like, but it's like that feeling of just like being free and like limitless, which like a lot of us unfortunately don't feel every day because life is really fucking hard. Way harder for other people than me, but like it's hard for everyone. So
yeah, and I think that's a really fucking good point because I think that's like where I know like you're trying to go out more and find more parties, but like where I'm at is like bitch, like why have I been?
You guys.
We're complete opposites. So like hopefully you relate to one of us, but like where I'm at is like bitch, like I don't need to like I used to think that the only place I would find the people that were like me, that like liked like fashion in the way that I did, not even fashion, but like style in the way that I did, the people that were liberal in the way that I am, like all of those things were in the underground party culture. Right. But they're not. Like there's other things going on, you know what I'm saying? But I just like always would result back to those things. So I think like you're right. Like there's so many other ways to deal with like the boringness of life that are less destructive, and partying really can be, you know?
Right. It can be. And that's why it's like moderation, like for sure. And I think it's just like a conversation too with like how like as a society, like we're insecure and alcohol runs deep in our culture. So it's like a lot of people in their 20s, like past 25, it's like, how do you make friends anymore? And it's like when you go out and then you find a lot of those friendships like might not be genuine because you're both drinking. So like who knows if this is real or not. It definitely can happen, and it has happened to both of us.
Yes.
But it's just like that does feel like the only place. And then you imagine if you don't like to party, you don't drink, you feel even more like, oh my God. Because in my mind, it's so black and white. It's like a fucking nerdy ass book club. Or you go to the bar, which I know it's not so black and white. Like there are ways to meet people. Like you can go up to someone at Barnes and Noble and fucking be cringe and like, I don't know, start a conversation. Like it doesn't need to be like that. And I do think it speaks to like how insecure we are and how much like alcohol like runs deep in our society and party culture as well.
Yeah, because you need that confidence. I mean, we're online
like
so
I
much,
feel that.
Yeah, like constantly thinking about how we're being perceived, that I think like I know for me, definitely, I like to get lit as fuck, like high as fuck, because like I'm like, then I'm not thinking. Like the voices are not like, don't talk to that person. Yes, like then it's like exactly the out the window feeling where you're just like, I am the baddest bitch. I'm free as fuck.
Oh my
like
God,
I can talk to anyone.
Out. Like remember when we took that picture at that like corner in Boston?
Yes,
it was
with
like
the sign.
Raining.
Yes,
like,
and the
bro,
cigarettes.
That is what I live for.
And that's the thing. It's such a fucking aesthetic, but is it as cool? Like, I don't know, guys. I'm so emo about partying right now, like, honestly. But at the same time,
it's good.
But at the same time, and we're going to talk about this too, like, there is so much culture that is built in the underground and in party scenes because it is not socially acceptable in the daytime and in your local coffee shop and in your local fucking Barnes and Noble. And like me, the way that I like to dress is generally like a see-through shirt with my nipples out.
Right.
And like, you know, and now it's more socially acceptable to dress in the like, you know, big boots, like extra ass makeup, like that sort of stuff. But like, I like to dress like a slut. Like I like to be a slut. Like the things that I enjoy, I feel like are not commonly accepted in regular life. Right. And usually I have to like act a certain like stiff way around people.
Yeah.
But when you're out and around like in that setting where everyone's drunk and you're in this like underground scene, no, it's not weird.
That's what I'm talking about with like life and like these universes that we go into, like party culture, like the strip club, like me like not even really knowing how to twerk my ass on stage, but it is totally fine. And people are still throwing money. Like maybe that would be cringe somewhere else. It absolutely would be. But it's like accepted there. And that's why I'm like, I really think like life is about like finding those mini universes that like you feel good in. Yeah. And like it makes sense. And like it's not your fault that you feel like party culture and those spaces are the best, because you're right. Like, especially these queer underground, like they're expressive. Like it is art. There's vibes in the air. It's like when you're at a fucking concert and like everyone's like having the time of their life. Like it's like those environments that you can't even put into words. And it just like, it's a fresh of fucking breath air, like when you're there. My God. Because I did that the other day. Do I have dyslexia?
You might.
It's a breath of fresh air. I did that the other, anyways. But yes.
But yeah, no, and exactly, because it's like, even when you said the stripper thing, it had me thinking like, when I go out, every other girl has been a stripper before, or is a stripper, or is an artist trying to pursue something like, and we'll talk about a little bit later how much of that is like they're actually not practicing their art, or they're not like, you know what I'm saying? It's about the image more than actually like doing it. But if I'm like at my regular job and in other settings, it's like, oh my God, you were a stripper? Like, you know what I'm saying? Right.
They're so like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, but it's fine.
So next we have you found community in bars and clubs? And this is like a real 50-50 one. We have
interesting.
46% of you guys saying yes, and 54% said no. I said yes.
I might know why though.
Why?
Like low-key, I feel like it's the straights, because like their bar and party culture like isn't as good. Like
they have community though, sororities and fraternities.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I
that
guess
is like
fun for them.
Like number one community club. You pay for your friends, you have them for the rest of your fucking life. Like,
but like, do you though? Like, it just
it's a
feel
different,
genuine to me.
Yeah, I mean,
but I'm not trying to hate. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
I don't feel that way either. But I think what it is, the reason that it's 50-50, and we're gonna talk about this at the end when we talk more about like specifically gay bars and the community there. Okay. But I think it's because it's like I have definitely found community, found good friends, found people to go party with. But are they really my friends? Are they really my community? Do they really know me when have we ever interacted sober? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, do they know what I do for work? Do they know, like, that type of thing where it's like a false sense of community? Like, you are going to this bar to see the same people every single weekend, but like, you guys don't really know each other.
Yeah.
And that's like, I feel like that's what it is. Like, I feel like it's like you have, because even at the bar that I work at, there's like, I mean, maybe there it's a little bit different. It's more casual, but there's regulars that all know each other. They see each other all the time. They come to the bar. They see each other there. But what is community really? Like, when we think about community, is it just people you see all the time, or does it go deeper than that?
Yeah, that's so real. Okay, I see that 100%. And I just remembered, too, that, like, I met one of my girlfriends, like, in a bar spontaneously, and we ended up dating. And it was, like, a lesbian space. And I went with, like, another lesbian friend. Yeah. And, so, and it's, like, community in that way. Like, and I'm also, like, relating to what you're saying. Like, sometimes I'm, like, maybe I'm the problem, too. Like, if I meet someone out, like, maybe I'm not being genuine about really wanting to be their friend, too. Or I look back and I'm like, I think I like embarrassed myself, so like I'm not going to talk to them again or something. Right. So like I think there's like a little bit of that going on for sure. Yeah, I didn't really look I'm just so quick to hate straight people.
No, I feel you. But I think it is also like same, because I put people in boxes. Like I've met plenty of people, especially now at this point in my life. Yeah, I put people in boxes.
Real as fuck,
bro.
Bitch. Me too.
At this point in my life, I've had so many friends from partying and going out that I come into the same thing of like usually these friends, which is like fucked up to judge because I'm still out there. Like there has to be people like me, you know what I'm saying? But usually they're people that like need something from me fucking constantly, or only want to party. Yeah. And like want to go out every weekend, and like if I'm tempted, I'll go. So and like want to like
use your space to get ready every single time.
Exactly.
And then trash it and not motherfucking clean it up.
Exactly. Well, my dog like attacks them and they're like,
And
oh
like
my God,
eat,
no.
and then they like give the dog something to eat, and then bro. Anyways, but yes.
Exactly. So it's like, are they your real friends? Are they fucking not?
Because, yeah, and, like, I feel like this is such a you thing to do, and, like, you're making me better. But it's like, yeah, like, how do we define community, right? Because it's like, I really want that, like, raw, authentic, genuine community. Like, you're really there for one another. But there's definitely communities that have, like, a false perception of, like, what it really is. And I've never thought about it like that. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's and I think it's easy for like you to, especially with partying versus any other style of community, like a book club, a Pilates club, like fucking
whatever. Why is it
like
always a book club? Like I feel like those bitches are deep,
right,
though.
like low key. So in talking about community, I want us to look at the kind of case study, I guess, of Freaknik, guys. And Autumn asked me before this, what is Freaknik? And it's like, honestly, I get it because first of all, we're white. I don't think I would know about it if I did not live in Atlanta, and it is from Atlanta. And I also watched the Freaknik documentary to learn more. So there's a documentary on Hulu called Freaknik, The Wildest Party Never Told. It's produced by 21 Savage and some other people. And essentially, Freaknik started as a picnic that they added the word freak to because they thought it like sounded cool. It didn't start in a freaky way. We'll get into that in a minute. But it just started as a spring break like solution for the HBCUs in Atlanta. So it was started by college students in the HBCUs, and the HBCUs had state clubs. So each state, like Georgia, DC, whatever, had a club. And I think it was the DC club that started this Freaknik picnic. And so all the HBCUs, because there's a lot in Atlanta, would meet, have a picnic at Piedmont Park, which is like fucking right down the street from me, guys.
Alliteration.
Right down the street from me. So Atlanta. And then it just grew because it was in the 80s at this time. There wasn't that many spaces for like Black Americans and specifically college students to like get together and be around all Black people. Mm-hmm. Atlanta has always been so unique for that. Like Atlanta is the Black Mecca of the US. Freaknik was mentioned by name in the popular TV show A Different World. And so after that, Black American college students throughout the US heard about what Freaknik was, just word of mouth, pre-social media times, and were like, no, we need to go to this. And especially in the southern area, they would drive like to Piedmont Park for Freaknik to be around a community of all Black college kids. So it started as like kind of just a more humble, like it wasn't as crazy. It didn't get super lit until later. But obviously when you have so many people there from all different states celebrating Black culture, you got like a lot of fashion trends come out of this. You got a lot of like aesthetic, like jewelry, hair, nail trends. You got music, because this was like a #1 place for people to promote their music. It was like CDs and cassette tapes back then. So if people wanted to get their music lit, you know, IRL, they would pass it out here at Freaknik. And then also cars were a big thing at the time. There was actually a rim shop that started it, and it was kind of like the hot spot for everybody to stop at when they went to Freaknik. And it was also an underground place for a lot of famous people, like Tupac had gone there before and stuff like that. It wasn't even really about selling rims as much as it was like a place to hang out. Just like real community. Rims? Like for your car. Like your tires, your tire rims. No, it's sure. Like it's car aesthetic thing. But that's a very Atlanta thing too. Like if you guys are in Atlanta, people love to rent the cars, flex the money that they don't have. But it's so funny because when I was watching the documentary, I'm like, bro, everything about like current Atlanta party culture makes like so much sense. And like honestly, it made me like more proud to like live in this city and like be a part of the party culture, because like America, Atlanta does have such a rich culture of just like Black history, and it is Black History Month, guys. But Black history and just Black culture, like the music scene in Atlanta is like the biggest music scene in hip hop and rap culture. Like there are so many important people that came from Atlanta, and specifically like Jermaine Dupri was one of the like biggest ones. And then they were talking about how much he like empowered other artists. He put people on. So it really like Freaknik started as a very like it was a party, but it was a lot about like uplifting your community. It was a lot about like hookups a little bit too, because like, duh, you're horny college kids. You're meeting like other hot college kids that everyone's putting on their best fucking fit for. And dancing was a big thing. And once they started to have like more people perform, like Biggie Smalls had gone, like I said, Jermaine Dupri, like so many people were performing at Freaknik. And I said Dr. Luke. Uncle Luke, do you know who he is?
No.
He's a music artist from like the 80s, 90s, whatever. So, and he's known for his freaky songs. Like all of his songs were freaky as fuck. Like things like twerking, like strip clubs. Like he was from Miami. So like he really, and he is claimed to have been like the first person to bring like black people into strip clubs, because before it was really just like white people owning strip clubs and stuff. But he brought the party with his music and like getting women on, like whatever. So once he went to Freaknik, he brought the freak to the party, which was already called Freaknik, but it wasn't freaky yet. But once Dr. Luke came in, and it was like this new era where like TLC was popular and all of these things, like women started to like be more free with their sexuality. They were like twerking, they were dancing. People were like the videos that you see of Freaknik now, like what Freaknik is known for is for people fucking in the street. Like people getting freaky as fuck, like dicks out, like tits out. And also things did get bad. Like there were cases of like where women were like essayed and like attacked and all of those things. And then there was also like a big police crackdown too, because the city was trying to clean up for the Olympics that came to Atlanta, and it just became a money thing. And now there is no more Freaknik. Like they tried to have one in 2022. It didn't really succeed. It was disbanded, like whatever. And that's like a thing that we're gonna kind of like see when we talk about gay bars too, is something starting from like a community standpoint and then kind of like blowing out of control in itself. Whether it's like other forces looking at the community like you're the problem, like being racist or something like that, or it being a money situation, or the people of the community themselves just, you know, like using substances too much, like going too far. People become predators and all of that, and then it kind of like falls apart on top of itself.
And maybe it's like when the community gets too big too. It's like when it starts, it's like more genuine and it's like fresh, and like you feel that like, oh my gosh, like finally. And I can imagine people felt like, you know, this is a space where it's like you said, like a space of all black people, young, and just like wanting to have a good time. And then it like blows up. And yeah, like with the money and just like drugs and like more people, like it becomes like, it's like, can party be community too when it gets to that level?
Right.
When there's so many people and there's so much going on, like, I don't know. But damn, I had no idea. And I didn't know it's over now too. That's kind of sad.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can see how it's like different for marginalized communities as well, because a lot of the things that people in the documentary said was that like Daytona Beach already existed for like white people and white college students. Like that was like crazy.
Right.
And it was what it was, like whatever. And nobody was really cracking down on that. I mean, Daytona Beach is like more a specifically like party area, but like it became more political when it's like black people in the streets having fun, like being joyous. You know what I'm saying?
That freedom feeling, yeah.
Right, but at a certain point it was like, oh no, we can't have this anymore. But the influences of Freaknik, I mean, are fucking huge. Like when we talk about like the 90s and the strip clubs and all of that too, like the video vixen era, which FD Signifier has a amazing YouTube video essay about Diddy and kind of like Diddy's whole history, but he talks about the video vixen era. And you can just kind of see like how the like party culture, because rap stars at the time, like for their music to get popular, it would have to be given out at something like Freaknik, or it was played in strip clubs. And so that's why strip clubs are so tied to culture, to art, to music, to all of those things, because it's like the underground, the underbelly of like what's going on and like what makes people pop. Like,
right. It's so crazy because I literally like learned that from my ex-boyfriend, like telling me about how like a lot of music goes off in strip clubs, like a lot of rappers especially. And he was a rapper, and so like he would tell me to play his fucking
music. No, my ex too. Like my ex used to like go out and be like, oh, I'm going out to try to get like my song played, and it's like It is a thing though. Like
Right.
it definitely is a thing. I remember when he first started doing it, like I like in a way I almost feel like I was like kind of like disrespectful to like the history of like that being part of like his culture and like stuff like that too, because it very much is. I was just thinking like put that shit on Spotify and let the
Right.
shit like, you know what I'm saying? But
Because that's how a lot of
people took
artists
off.
blew up. Yeah.
Right. This is how a lot of artists like
It's
blow
the
up.
blueprint.
Like, right. And even though like Rim Shop and stuff, like it reminds me like just watching the documentary, like it made me so happy to see that like the spirit of Freaknik is still so much in Atlanta, because like there are so many places in Atlanta that I feel like are like the Rim Shop, where it's like famous people or underground people who are like maybe not famous to the average. They're pretty famous though. Like you leave Atlanta, but you come back to it and you're still friends with those people. Like
And I feel like it's like talking about party culture. It's so important to bring up the Black community too, because it's like we talk about all the time. It's like white people like take everything from Black people and then like quote unquote like make it
appropriate
cool.
it. Yeah.
And you know, it's like the stereotypical like a white person goes to like a quote unquote Black wedding for the first time and is like, oh my God, I didn't know a wedding could be this fun. Yeah. Like that literally happened to me before. Like, and you know, it's like that's like, you know, a fucked up thing, but like if we're just being honest, like that's some white thoughts. But I just think it's so important. It's like, yes, queer people 100% and like drag culture too. But like the Black community is like should be so applauded for like all the beautiful things about party culture too, and like the freedom, the dancing, all of that. And so like I think it's so important to bring it up. Yeah.
Yeah, because so much of music and dance derives from Black culture. I mean, like rock and roll was Black before it was white. Like even when we think about someone like Miley Cyrus with her whole J's on my feet twerking era, like all of that was appropriating Black culture.
I didn't even clock that was like fucking weird. I was just like, oh my God, she's
I didn't back then. I mean, I did a little bit back then, but I was also like, okay, it's cool. Like Miley's accepted. Like I don't know. Like I was like,
off. That was her pop off era.
That was
too,
her
so
whole moment.
But yeah, 100%. Yes.
But yeah. So next I want us to talk about sex and hookups a little bit on the party side of things, because like I said, especially with Freaknik, a lot of the Black women that did go to Freaknik were talking about how incredible it felt, especially as a Black woman, to be like free with your sexuality and sexual identity, especially if you were traveling from a different state down to Atlanta to go to this one party. You were like, nothing matters. Like I can hook up with whoever. Like I can shake my ass. Like I can be free. Like I'm around people like me. Like everything is fun and free and whatever. And I know that like both of us felt that way a lot in the strip club. Like when I go out, I get fucking slutty, which is what we asked you guys.
Yes, we did.
We asked, do you get slutty when you party? And 65% of you guys said yes. 35% said no. Honestly, I wish it was more of us that are saying yes, but I was pleasantly surprised that it's still more for yes and less for no. I mean, you get a little alcohol in your system, it goes straight to your fucking pussy. Like, you want to fuck anybody. Like, I love it though. Like, no, I love
it so much. And that is a huge part of it for me. Like, honestly, I feel like when I'm in a relationship, like partying's like not really the same. Yeah. And it's kind of like, okay, like, you know, like I do think like being single and like having that opportunity to flirt, like while you're in that like freedom, ecstasy space, like I get so slutty, like ridiculously. And it's like it's accepted though. Like somewhat, depending on the party, like where you are, like someone might look at you weird, but it's like one or two people. Whereas like if you were going to act slutty in like a coffee shop or like on the grocery store, like you would be deemed like scarlet letter, like,
and we are all the time. Like I think about that. Like I feel like I was like reflecting on this like the other day. I'm like, the number of times I feel like I'm associated with being a slut when I'm not even doing anything slutty, and I'm like, if they only knew, you know what I'm saying? But like, just be an attractive woman who's a little bit confident and a little bit friendly in our society, and you're immediately deemed a slut by men and women alike. You know what I'm saying? Like you almost have to put on this like persona all the time to be like hypercritical of not being slutty. Right. But when you're out, it's fun and it's free, and it's freeing in a lot of senses, because women do have sexual agency. And like guys know that, other women know that, we all know that. Right. But for some reason it's still not really super acceptable in regular society.
Yeah. And it's like we're talking about freedom. It's like you're trying to get all these highs and like an orgasm or like those sexual feelings is like, that's what you want. Like you want to get a high from the alcohol or the drugs, a high from just the night and looking good. And then a high from like flirting and like getting attention and like being perceived in a good way and like feeling sexual. And I also feel like, I know you can relate to this too, but like being strippers and like working as sex workers in a party environment, now it's like, it's hard to like forget how to like party without being a sex worker. And not like I'm like just pimping myself out, but just like the kind of like seduction tendencies that I would do there, or just like, even if it's being interested in like an older guy, like the strip club did that to me. I was never attracted to like older men. And now I am. Like, even at work the other day, I was interviewing this guy and I was like, fuck, bro. And he was like 50 years old. Like, and it's like that just like doesn't really go away. So that's like a weird thing too.
Yeah, because I mean, I was thinking about this a lot, like being back bartending. I had watched this TikTok where it was a manager like having the like pre-shift talk, and he was like, people are spending money to go out to have a good time. This is their Friday night, this is their date night, this is their girls' night, time, whatever. Right. Like, it is your job as an employee to like bring the vibes, bring the energy. Like, you need to perform. And I've always felt that way about like serving, bartending, stripping. Like, you are a performer. You are creating the vibe of the nightlife. And so, and I think I'm good at that. You're good at that. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, when I'm out, like, I want that. And I honestly feel like now at this point in my life, like, I've lost that. Like, I have it when I'm bartending, but like, which we're going to get into the dark side of partying like later, but it's like when you're doing it like too much, where it's like, it's not like fucking like fun anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but you forget to see the beauty in it more.
Yeah, because it's not, it's
just
regular.
Like casual
it's
sex.
not rare. Yeah, exactly. It's regular. It's not rare. But so Gay Bar, Why We Went Out is a book by Jeremy Atherton Lin. And I listened to the audiobook on Spotify, guys. It's free on Spotify. Definitely check it out. I really like this book. And like, honestly, it's so funny. Like, I thought about this because I had started this book before I had hung out with a bunch of my gay guy friends a couple weeks ago. And I've always been around a lot of like gay men friends. Like, I've always had a lot of gay guy friends, but like, I had never really like reflected on like their culture and like that as much until I read this book and I heard it from a gay man's perspective, like talking about like these bars and like these sexual encounters in such a romantic way. I developed like such an appreciation for it. And also like, it was just so interesting because the way that we talk about men, and I know you specifically, like talking about men's bodies being like romantic and like attractive and like the like griminess of being a man, you know what I'm saying? But the way that gay men talk about each other and like the sluttiness of a gay bar. Have you ever been to a gay man's bar? They're all shirtless, they're sweating, they're like pressed up against each other. Like, it is very like man. You know what I'm saying? Like gay man, but like man, you know? So the way that he talks.
Yes.
Which,
and I just feel like as a queer woman, like it's been a consistent thing where like you go to a gay bar, you think like, oh, a cute girl will be there. No, it's all gay men. So like I do have that block. And even like I had two moms growing up, right? We went to Provincetown every summer. It's like the gayest part in fucking Massachusetts. And it's like gay men everywhere. Like, where are the lesbians? And so I've felt like that a lot. But I want to push past that block because it's not like gay men's fault that like there's not a lot of like lesbian queer spaces, like lesbians of color spaces. Like, it's kind of bad. Like, it's hard to like look for it and find it. It does exist. But it's like, even in LA, it's like, it's not endless. Like, there's options. But so that's how I'm just like, like I'm like so much, like I look at men, if you're gay, you're trans, you're straight, I don't care. Like, men are men to me. Yes. So I'm like, this is men.
Yeah. It just had me thinking the way that we.
It is beautiful, like for them. Right. I don't need to be a part of it.
I think so often when we talk about men though, we talk about it in such a heterosexual man way. Right. And in a way that like forgets gay men and like there's, even though like you're saying like gay men are definitely centered like for sure in queer nightlife. And thankfully in Atlanta we have MSR, My Sister's Room, which is a super cool lesbian queer bar. But let's read what Jeremy says. He said, I love this quote so much because I relate too. Like, I don't like, we'd go out to get some. On certain evenings, Famous and I intuit we're going to end up in such a place without the need for discussion. We go out because we're thirsty. We go out to return to the thrill of the chase. We want to go out to be in a room of penises wherein each contains the possibility that it is, to use the queer initialism, TBH, to be had. That phrase looks forward to fondly looking back. All about the conquest and bragging about it later. But I could be home thumbing through a grid of TBH torsos. We go out for the aroma. Some nights just smell like trouble. The city at dusk carries the scent of all its citizens mingling. We head out on the dopamine. There are nights that have an audible pulse, so we dance. And it's like the line about the penises is like that language, like him describing the hookups, it's very like gritty, man, not the way that I think about loving a penis or talking about a penis. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right. Like we talk about dicks in like a heterosexual sense so much, and like hearing it from like gay men's perspective and like that more like beautiful way. It's like the way I look at like pussy with women. Like, it's fucking beautiful to me because like I like lean more towards that, at least right now, bro. Like, I don't know. But so, yeah, I love that. And I think it's really, really, really important. And it's like not like stereotypical, like a feminine way. Like what you're saying, it's like that grimy, manly, but it's like a different perspective.
Dirty, But I also just love the idea of like the way he's describing why they're going out. And like, we're going out to get some, like we're going out for the thrill. We're going out for the chase. Like the idea of people mingling, like the air in the nighttime of like something's gonna happen. The way it
smells like trouble.
Right. And like you could have a hookup. Like just the thought of like you potentially having one is like the reason to go.
And we all know sometimes that feeling of potential is even better than what ends up actually
it gets you
happening.
in trouble and it gets you into some shit hookup sometimes because like you're just so determined.
Like that idea of like, we don't know what's going to happen tonight, but like there's so many things that like could happen. Like, I know. It's like, and that's what's like how I felt about the casual sex episode, like talking about these things. Cause it's like, let's be honest, like people do look at partying like, I shouldn't do it as much, or like I need to get sober and I need to da-da-da. Like they don't talk about it in an artful way. Like you get that from art and literature, but like not as much like in other things. And that's just not how people talk about it. And it's like a party girl like somewhat has like a bad stereotype against it. Very closely related to like slut and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. And he has another quote that he's actually quoting Michel Foucault, who said, "You meet men there who are to you as you are to them, nothing but a body, with which combinations and productions of pleasure are possible. You cease to be imprisoned in your own face, your own past, and your own identity." And I really like this idea too, because it's so fucking true. And like, I have been thinking about that, and we talked about it even at the end of our casual sex episode, where it's like almost like, am I fucked up because like we're like using each other in this way, like
just a body,
is it okay if we like know that, like, because you know gay bars do have that very like sexual, especially gay male bars, which is like what I love about them. And I think that's why I get along with a lot of gay men for that reason, because it's like accepted for me to be a slut in that way and like go on hookups, because a lot of gay men, like that's like the culture, that's like the vibe, like you know what I'm saying? But I don't know, like I think to me this is a beautiful thing, and I enjoy having that type of sex where it's like it's transactional, but it's not if you know what it is, you know what I'm saying?
And both people are in agreement and like happy.
Then it's not. But like I do think that there is something, like I can't even count the number of times like I've gone out and made someone my boyfriend for the night. Like I say that all the time, like not fuck them or just make out with them or like whatever, but like I'm connecting with this person for this experience of this moment tonight to have.
And you are somewhat using them for that, and like are you fucked up for that? Yeah, that's so interesting. And I feel like it's like, yeah, like we look at it like we want to flirt and like have that potential, but it's like, does everybody feel that way? So it's like if they don't, then like, yeah, it is fucked up that you're using them for that. But it's also like at the end of the day, like you're not promising anything, and like you're validating them in a way and like giving that them that dopamine of like attention and like wanting them to an extent. So I don't know. That's so true. And especially with guys, like I'm like, oh my God, like I didn't use them. And like, it's a fucking guy. Like who cares? But it's like, that's so
some
fucked
of them
up.
are in
and
your
like,
DMs
and even you said like, when you have sex with someone and then the next morning you wake up and you're like regretting it. And it's like, is the other person regretting it too? But it's like, I don't even think about that. It's so just like me. Like
it's
I'm
just
regretting
the escape
it.
because they become a part of the escape that exists as the night out. Like
they're a part of the story and like the whole fucking thing. Like and it's not, because it's like, you're going out. It's like, are you on the hunt? Like, are we like hunting right now?
Right. And that's why I'm like, we're going to get to drag next and the whole performance art aspect, because like, to me, it's almost like you're going out to live this performance and then it ends. And that's why I don't want to talk to you the next day. And that's why maybe we can't build community.
Right.
You know, because it's like you're going out to perform this life and then return to your other life kind of concept going on. So
if you guys like what you're listening to, make sure you are subscribed and or followed on various platforms. You can like the video on YouTube and leave a comment if you want. We always want to keep the conversation going. And please rate us on Spotify and or Apple as well. You can do a written review on Apple. And we always post polls for every single episode on our Instagram at So Wet So Dry. The O's are zeros. You can submit stories for that we can read and talk about in the episode. And you can join our community of confused pussies.
I want to talk about drag. We talked about Chappell Roan already. Obviously, Chappell Roan's looks eat. She just did the Grammys in Pink Pony Club with the whole pony. Like she does like the Statue of Liberty.
On that bitch.
She looks incredible. And this is just her like ode to queer culture. Like she really loves to bring the party to all of her shows. But drag stands for literally dressed as a girl. And there's like a lot of different beliefs as to how it became a thing. But one thing is in Shakespeare, because Shakespeare in the time period, they were sexist. They wouldn't let women perform in Shakespeare plays, so men would be drag, like dressed as a girl and like be performing as these women. Nice. So like it comes from like sexism, but like also is like empowering for like, you know, like we've repurposed it in today's society. So I want us to think about drag, not just in the concept of like drag is a big part of like going out party culture, but also in the concept of like drag as a concept, like conceptually like what drag is. And obviously we know generally it's cis men dressing up as women and performing like lip syncing, like all of those sorts of things. But it's really about taking like exaggerated forms of gender and like camp and kind of like playing with style. Like it isn't just for
I've always struggled with what camp is.
Camp is like, camp is like,
yeah, we don't need to get into it. I just want you to know that.
Okay.
And the audience.
Yeah, we can. Camp is interesting though. I love camp. Like
right,
Lady Gaga. Like Lady Gaga is very drag. She's very camp. Like so is Chappell Roan. Like it's the exaggeration. Camp isn't necessarily this, but like drag is the exaggeration of like things that we do as performance. And like gender is a performance to a lot of degrees, right? Like gender is a construct, gender is not real. Gender is something that we put on every day and we act according to. Yeah. So I want us to watch this video from like RuPaul back in the day, like OG queen, and what RuPaul has to say about drag.
Make the point that you're born naked and the rest is drag, you know? As the guys in the three-piece suits over there, I look terrible in a three-piece suit, but it's drag. I mean, everything you wear, this body you have is a vessel, and you're bigger. It's bigger than the both of us. No, you say we don't. I'm not sure. I love your show too. I love this show, Geraldo. It's my favorite. It really is. Thank you.
You're born naked and the rest is drag. Like when we think about that, like every day, no matter where we go, we are performing. And I think that there's something really interesting about like going out party culture where you can kind of like amp up this level of like performance or like maybe even like expression of your true identity and the parts that you can't really express in your regular life.
Right. And I love that too, because I also feel like obviously we all have that fear of like, I don't want to appropriate anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've always felt like that way towards drag, that I want to be like so careful. Like I know it is so sacred and like important to the community, but it's like, yeah, like when you look at it like that and like break it down as like a gender construct, like social construct, all of that, like you're born naked and everything else is drag. Like maybe we're all doing it to a certain degree, but it's like people don't really know what it means and like don't break it down and just think of like a stereotypical drag queen. But yeah, like it's not always like a white man like dressing up as a woman. Like there's so many elements to it. So I think it's like really cool to like think about it that way.
Yeah, because like drag is a concept. It's like gender is a construct. It doesn't exist. Like you can be a man today, be a woman tomorrow. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you
don't have to change anything about you to do so. You just make that decision.
And it's making fun of gender in a lot of ways too. Like how much you have to put into it to be perceived as like being a woman and stuff like that too. Like, you know what I'm saying? And
if you think about it deep, yeah.
Yeah, and we have another quote from Sasha Velour, who's another famous drag queen, and Chappell Roan loves Sasha Velour, taking a lot of inspiration from her. Chappell said, "I'm your favorite artist," which is like ode to Sasha Velour. I'm your favorite drag queen's favorite drag queen. So we're gonna watch her.
This is why I say everyone should do drag at some point. The more people get comfortable with exaggerating, laughing at, transforming themselves, becoming not just who they are, but whatever they want to be, whatever they can imagine, the more flexible and adaptable you are. Life is not easy, and you have to find a way to make it fun and to make yourself ferocious. And that's what drag is about. Survival, glamorously.
I really love this because I think this is the mentality of like most drag culture, is that like it's for everyone. And sometimes I think it's sad what happens to it, because then you have like bachelorette parties like take over entire like gay bars and like make it all about them and like lose the meaning. They're like, oh my God, haha, fun, a drag queen. But then like lose like the rich, deep history of what drag really is. And that is what I think Sasha Velour and RuPaul are really talking about, is like we are exaggerating and making fun of the fact that gender is a fucking thing and that we have to perform. And like to me, partying, going out is this space in which, and it's unfortunate that like, you know, so many substances are involved, but like we can become a full expression of ourselves and like experiment with our look and like be in drag and like do this different stuff like where we can't in regular society, because people are gonna like look at you weird or shame you. Like, I mean, think about the ways you have to dress at work just to be like taken seriously, whether you have a uniform or you business casual, like whatever.
Right.
So
it's like drag is expression, and it's like if you're in drag, it's like you're incognito in a way. It's like, oh, I'm in drag tonight. Like, I'm going to do something different and like express myself in a different way.
And like to connect this to like the broader like culture, like everybody else, like we asked you guys, like, is your party self different from your daily life self? And 60% of you guys said yes, 40% of you guys said no. And at first I was thinking about this, like, oh, is it a bad thing that your party self is different? Like from an addiction standpoint or from a like dissociative,
My
like
mom would
mental
say yes.
health. Yeah, like, and a lot of people would, you know, but like, I also feel like it's not. And like, this is like why at the beginning I was saying like a middle finger to partying or a middle finger to society, because like in a lot of ways, like the party scene needs to exist. The drag club, the gay bar, the underground needs to exist, because there's no other space for us to like, for that self to become a person and like experiment and be free sexually, to experiment with different genders sexually, to experiment with your look, to meet other people, like that. And we need liquid courage, we need drugs, and it makes it so sad, but it just speaks to how fucking like conservative our country is, and even more so as we look at Trump politically, which we're going to talk about.
Like, is it our fault that we have to drink to escape all of this going on? Like, you know what I mean? Like, to an extent. And it's like, yeah, it's almost like it's like a need to party. Like, you like to party? No, I need to.
Yes.
Because even like what Sasha was talking about, like drag is like survival. Like it is survival. to party and like have that. And like, it's like, I know that there are some people out there that do party without drugs. I think those people have superpowers that I want access to. I don't think that's the norm, but I've seen bitches like love to party and go out and don't have one sip of alcohol the whole time. But I think, like I 100% am different, and I think I'm more my authentic self. I think I'm less concerned about being perceived once the alcohol hits, for sure. And even if I'm out, like especially in a queer space, like I can just like be myself and be whatever, and like the cringy, the sexuality, the hypersexuality is like accepted and encouraged. Like the bitches love it. So yeah,
and we're gonna talk about that, like the idea of like being sober and like being able to party, because I've been thinking about
like
that a lot lately.
How do you guys do it? Comment
and I think
below.
It's like, to me, it's like, okay, if partying for me is
fun.
performance art, which I think is the thing that I love about it, like me being able to like experiment with myself, find myself, like whatever. I think the solution is to be able to do that in my regular life and not fear the consequences of like what people think, and not need the substances to make you feel able to do that. Because at the end of the day, like what's realistically going to happen? For some people, it's much more serious and it is a survival thing.
Right.
You know, but.
And it's just, last thing I'll say, it's like we were saying, like people look down on like party culture to an extent, but like what you said in the beginning too, I honestly do think I've grown so much and learned about myself so much more. I think it was necessary, and like I don't think I would be as happy without a lot of those experiences and like and those feelings of expression. Even when I went to Berlin and went into a club where there were lesbians wearing strap-ons in front of me, and it was fine. Like, I literally peaked. Like, that was the biggest moment of my life. And, like, that was party culture, like, sexuality, not being ashamed, just, like, in your element. And I think it's a beautiful thing. But I agree. Like, there obviously are dark sides. We'll get into it. But I really, and like what you said, that's all we have. Like, where else are you supposed to get that feeling? And I'm not going to feel bad about that. I think I needed that. I think we all need that.
Yeah, because otherwise you're going to live your life questioning. And I'd rather rather try to find answers to the questions. Like, I'd rather like live a life where I'm like, I went out and I saw what's out there, rather than like sitting at home like wondering.
Like I have to have like 2 guys fuck me at once. Like I have to do that.
I want to go to like sex parties. Like that's the next thing I want to do, which I feel like if I'm going to go to like real sex parties, like I don't want to be like drunk really. Like I want to be like lit, but like I don't want to be like fucked up, because like the environment.
Bad decision making. Yeah.
Right. But I definitely want to go to sex parties in the future. But so we have, another quote from the book Gay Bar Why We Went Out. This is the Harvard Review talking about the book, and they said that Atherton Lin writes about gay culture as having been built on the idea of imitation, the longing embedded in feeling real, on embracing that feeling and refusing to accept realness as it's been constructed for us. And if the gay bar was once a place where we hoped we could find ourselves, to be someone different from whom we've been before, we did so with intention, building an identity from the ground up, playing the part until we memorized every line. And this is something that the author talked about a lot throughout the book, is like he was finding himself as being like a gay man and like being comfortable saying that he was gay, like figuring out what type of gay he was. Was he a bear? Was he a twink? Was he a daddy? Like all of this different stuff. And like, you know, performing a lot when he went out and like experimenting with things and like meeting other people to find his gay identity. Because for gay people, especially during this time period, there wasn't much culture like in movies and books and TV shows where you could have like representations of yourself. So it really existed in the nightlife and stuff like that for you to like experiment. And even still, like, and books and movies
what
are
other
great.
Queer people were doing and what they were wearing. Like, what's the vibe? Yeah, like what can I try out?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, and books and movies and stuff are great, but like there's a difference in doing it and being like around other people, like living it, breathing it. And I just don't think that there's anything like partying that really does that. And so in a lot of ways, I think it is performance art. And then the other part about the drag and performance art that I wanted to talk about, less on the queer side and more just what I've noticed in the party scene, is how many people, more like fashion people, because in Atlanta there's like an underground with a lot of like fashion and like artists, like music artists, like all of that stuff, but like cosplaying like a glamorous life, but really being like homeless and stuff like that. And like, this is something that one of my good friends, Sean, had talked about, which I was hoping that he would have a video talking about this, but he didn't. But like, definitely I want him to create a video essay. He talks about it on his story all the time. But like, kind of these like homosexual type of people who are like literally cosplaying that their life is glamorous and that they have like all this Margiela, Rick Owens, type of stuff. They're going out every night. You're the type of person where if you're not going out, you're going to look at their Instagram and be like, oh my God, they're so cool. And then like they really have nothing together. They're addicts, or they're DL, which Sean talks about all the time too, is like you're going out to like fight your gay demons because you can't accept yourself in your like daily life and like be out as straight or as not straight. So that's just another thing too. And to me, that is drag, because I think you're like, which one is drag? If it's all drag, you know, we're all performing all of the time.
Yeah.
And it's just an interesting concept to think about, because it's like, I don't know, like a lot of people use partying as a way to find themselves, but also as a way to lose themselves, because it's like you're constantly performing the life that you have not achieved yet.
Right.
You know?
And I think it's just so deep, like for queer people, because it's like now today it's so different. But like back then in like the history, it's like that's really all they had. Like that was the only space to go. And it's like, is it a bad thing that it was so like intertwined with like drugs and alcohol? Like maybe, but I do think like that was honestly survival. Like if you're like on the DL, like in your normal life or whatever, it like you need to go to that space to like escape and like be yourself.
And that's what we're going to talk about next. So you transitioned perfectly. I want us to, I tried to like type this out. This is a passage from the book, the audiobook. Yeah. I typed out the other quotes. This one's too long, guys. So we're going to listen to it and talk more about the very political aspects of partying, and particularly gay and queer culture.
When I say gay bar, you might picture a salon of effete dandies engaged in witty banter, a layer of brutes in black leather, a pathetic spot on the edge of town flying a lackluster rainbow flag for its sole denizen, one lonely hard drinker. Of course, a gay bar can be all these things and more. Many of us have believed finding a home in such a place meant finding oneself. Late at night, all the men in the room are referred to as boys. "Hello, boys," shouts the drag queen, and this approximation of Neverland evinces a mindset of perennial searching. A gay bar, it will be said, affords refuge. The Latin root refugium positions a refuge as a place to which one flees back, indicating regression, withdrawal, and retreat. A gay bar could be seen as the last refuge of those addicted to sex or alcohol, to their own abasement or oblivion. The question arises as to what distinguishes an enclave from a quarantine, and whether either is any longer necessary. The young homos in my South London neighborhood create a parallel universe in mixed company. The blippy alert of an incoming Grindr message in a straight pub punches between worlds. A territory is not conquered but complicated, revealed to be permeable. Not to mention, in some cases, the pub in question once went through a gay phase. The boys are comfortable enough in the desegregated space, but may keep one thumb on an app, migrating not their bodies but their attention to a ghetto of common lingo and desire. Is it enough to have a gay bar in the palm of your hand? I've come across 2 separate interviews in which Alex Green, a campaigner for the reopening of London's historic gay venue, the Black Cap, has likened going into his beloved gay bar at the end of the day to unburdening himself of a backpack, or rather hoisting one on, a big gay backpack. He couldn't be sure which way the analogy worked. This proverbial backpack makes sense to me. Gay identity is a paradox of freedom and containment. The critic and activist Simon Watney once wrote of the sense of relief upon finding a gay bar in a new city, promising the chance to meet other people like us. And yet, the question remains, in what sense like us? Each time I step into a gay bar, I sense my identity being calibrated. a fleeting introspection at the threshold, sending ripples through my time there.
So there is so much in this passage, and I really love this book because I haven't really read any other books that capture party culture and like the paradox of it in the way that he does. And then also like gay identity. And I love how he talks about the like gay backpack. And I think it applies to like all of our identities, whether it's like, you know, woman, like woman, stripper, Black, queer, whatever you are, it feels like you're wearing it all the time. And like when you go to a space that is like you get to relieve it and you get to like put it down and like be around other people that just fucking get it. And I love how he also talks about the contrast in being in a space that isn't like you and how kind of like off you feel like an outsider. And like, yes, you could have like Grindr on your phone or something like that, or you could like, but is that the same? And are we like, by simulating it in these online spaces and like social media, it doesn't ever give like the same feeling as that like physical space.
Right.
You know, so I love that passage.
Yeah, because I think, the paradox is super interesting. And I feel like, honestly, when I was first coming out, like, there were times where I was in, like, lesbian spaces and I didn't feel like any of them. And it's, like, this feeling of, like, oh, my God, like, I, like, identify with these people in that way, but, like, I'm not like any of them. So it's like, yes, we have this like beautiful community and like gay bars like go down in history for sure. And you can get so much from them, but it's not always like all sunshine and rainbows. So I think like that's what he's talking about there at least. But it's like in those quotes of like, I go to a gay bar to like feel seen and like to like release the burden like of my day. And it's like, that's how people feel when like anyone just goes to a bar. But I think like being queer or like having that other marginalized identity and like the added layer of like the identity stuff, like feeling more at ease for like 5 seconds, like makes it even deeper. And it's like you can get that by like doing party culture and like being there, which is like kind of a crazy thing. And I think there are a lot of stereotypes where it's like gay men are like too much, like they're wild, like when they party and all of that. But it's like, it is like political in a sense. And like it's protest because like that's where it all started. And like, I definitely feel like the first time I went to a lesbian bar was like, I felt more like empowered about my identity. And like you need that, like when you're queer to be around that. Just like when we were talking about Freaknik, like you need to be around people that identify with you in that way. So
yeah, and exactly, because it's like your queer identity is not your whole identity. Like there's so many other aspects of yourself that like you're not just going to be in a queer space and be like, oh my God, like we're all the same. But because especially during the time where he's talking about this, like it was like pre and during like Stonewall riots and all of that stuff too. And it was like when they were having sip-ins at bars. And he was talking a lot about like how he felt complicated in his like political identity during this time period because he felt like he should be more involved, but like also just wanted to like be a gay man having fun. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but the pressure that you feel like in the community and how so much of like the messaging around like, you know, legalizing gay marriage and everything at that time period was get into the streets and out of the bars. That was like the messaging because people were developing this community in these bars. They were partying, they were having fun, but they were not organizing enough to like take like legal action and stuff. And then you see like the other side of it where he talks about a lot of these bars being like appropriated and like kind of taken over by straight people who just like to watch gay people for entertainment, like the bachelorette parties at drag shows. And then how they would like refuse service to those straight people in bachelorette parties until gay marriage was legalized. So like these spaces became so political and like it was very helpful in moving the movement forward because also it was during a time period where AIDS was a thing. And so many of the people that you're partying with, you're going out with, were dying of AIDS, you know what I'm saying? And so community needed to be built around like caring for these people and like grieving their loss and like all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So
and
like
like
queer
prone
culture,
to addiction in that way too, to drugs and alcohol, you know, like it's like, it's really bad. Like that's why it goes hand in hand. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like people look so down upon like addicts and that thing, like in that sense, but they never think about like, oh, that person needed like an escape from their life. It wasn't about the alcohol. It's also about like the experience and the community of just like going out is a part of it too. But yeah, it's trippy.
Yeah, and that's
because I
like
think
one
of
the
Rent
tragic...
the musical. Have you ever seen Rent the musical?
I think I have like a while ago.
Like it's a lot about addiction and like fucking going out tonight, like party culture too. And it's like you might look at like those characters like, oh my gosh, they're wild. Like they're just partying and doing that. But if you look at it like politically and like reflect on the history, it's like a lot fucking deeper. It's not just like gay men going crazy at Flaming Saddles. If you live in LA, you know what I mean? Like it is and it could be political. Because there's also a lot of like gay men strippers at these bars. Yeah. That is not necessarily like super stripper, like a strip club, but like they're dancing and like then it's like you're looking at the male body in a different way as something beautiful too. So it's like there's a lot going on at these bars.
Yeah, exactly. I think it is like, and we asked you guys, well, let's do the polls first to talk about it. We asked you guys, do you feel liberated when you party? 68% of you guys said yes, 32% said no. And then we asked you, is partying political? And only 35% said yes, and 65% said no. And I'm like, how can you say that you feel liberated when you party, but partying isn't political? If you're being liberated,
I definitely said party wasn't political.
Here's
what I agree that it is now, but I didn't do like the research and I wasn't like thinking about it like that. And I think with like everything going on, like the word political is like, like it's, you know? So I'm like, no, like, can we just have fun and party? But like now thinking about it like this way, it absolutely is. And it's like what you're saying. It's like, yeah, like liberation, like is political. Yeah. But I guess like I wasn't looking at liberation in a political way.
And I'm not saying in the sense of like, okay, when you go out to a gay bar, you are doing an act of like
right.
political.
No,
like you're not like there's way better ways to be organizing against like Donald Trump and all of this stuff. But I'm saying like, unfortunately, and especially today in the society that I feel like a lot of people just are not acknowledging, like myself included to an extent, like Donald Trump just said there's only two genders. You know what I'm saying? Like people going out and partying in queer spaces is directly opposed to that. It is political by existing, by surviving.
You're celebrating
you're
celebrating a politicized identity.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it becomes political because of the climate that we exist in. Yes. And that also makes an unfair burden on the communities because not everyone wants to be political. That's why I think a lot of people get wrapped up in addiction and the culture and the escape because like, I mean, I don't want to live in a society where I don't have the right to a fucking abortion and where like queerness isn't seen as a thing and all this stuff. Like I would rather live in party life my whole life and like be wrapped up in ecstasy and Molly and good times where I can create this fantasy world of where everything is like accepted and okay and like fun and cool and whatever. But that like destroys you and it eats you alive. And like I've seen a lot of people like lose themselves to the party culture. But when we've created a society in which we can't live healthily, like with capitalism and all of that stuff included in our like full expressions of ourselves and our identities, where else do you go? Yeah. You go to the parties, you know? Another quote from the book before we get into the dark side of partying. He says, "The gay bars of my life have consistently disappointed. Activists claim they should be kept open to facilitate knowledge passing between generations. Had I ever received wisdom on a bar stool? Not really." And this is the thing, because it's like exactly, like there is no real, like as much as I'm saying like your identity is politicized and so you partying is political, it is an act of rebellion, we aren't making political change by partying.
By doing it.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're not like, but we think we are. I've been in so many like 8 a.m., like not in the way we just woke up, that we've been partying since 8 a.m., doing drugs, and everyone is talking about like deep political issues, but also where else ever in my life do I have that environment? And like, but the thing is I'm realizing you can seek it out. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you just got to try a little bit harder. And you
can. Like you can go to a library event, you can but the way that I think most people become radicalized and don't become radicalized to the extent
Right.
But like learn about it is through like those connections, that community and party culture.
Because I think going to a library, it's like I'd be tripped over what the fuck I'm gonna say. But if I'm like on drugs and it's like 7 a.m., like I'm just letting loose and like being so raw. And so like as sometimes those conversations can be so frustrating depending on like who you're having it with.
Oh my God.
Like sometimes it is like a really like good space where we're like, damn guys, like we just kind of like, even if we're tripping, like it's okay. So like, you do get that. But I love that he said that because I feel like lot of partying is like, I've never got wisdom at the bar stool. Like it is kind of more rare when it happens. But I think that's what makes it so special. Like when it does, like it is possible for sure.
Right. But like we're not making any fucking change in someone's basement at a rave. Like you feel like you could be or you feel like you are, but you're not doing anything.
Because I think it's just like you don't want to glamorize like addiction, right? And like addiction plays like such hand in hand in party culture. So like I think it is important to call it out where like sometimes it's just some dumb shit. We're not doing anything political. We're just like existing and like being whatever. But it also can be like a beautiful thing and you can learn too.
And why do people get involved in a lot of addiction though? Is because like they're not
fucking how the world is. Yeah.
How the world
you feel like
is.
You can't be yourself.
When you need to have an escape, what are you escaping from? Like, you know what I'm saying? So we're going to talk about the dark side of partying next. And another quote from the book. He says in 1951, Donald Webster Corey wrote, quote, "One wanders into the bar in hopes of finding the convivial spirit that comes from being with one's own. But in the same way, the bar is the frightening specter of a mirror that holds up the image of oneself, which is a true image." And I love this fucking quote because it's like, you are hopeful that you're going to find people like you, that you're going to meet to do the next creative project, and you're going to have this underground Andy Warhol-like culture and like do all this stuff. But like realistically, the people that you meet that I was talking about earlier, like the people that are homeless and don't have their shit together and they're addicted and they're overdosing and the STDs are being spread.
And then
like,
you're
whatever.
like, and I'm here too.
And that's me. You know, like I'm with them. Like that is the community that I am a part of. Like there isn't like the shit I want to be going on here is not going on here.
You can't get the good stuff without the dark side of partying. Honestly, that's with any type of like high you're seeking, any escape you're seeking. Like it's never gonna be perfect. And I think we've all had like both of those moments where you do see yourself and you are being creative and fun or whatever. And then you're like, oh shit, like this is actually really bad. And like the people that I'm looking at where I'm like, I don't want to end up like them. Like, am I already there? Like, am I, because I'm in this space too. So yeah, like the mirror of your true self, like that's really real.
Yeah, and the allure of it, right? Like it's so glamorized. It's like you're gonna you keep going out, like how we talked about in the beginning, like the thrill of the chase, like the hope that something's gonna happen. But how often does it really happen?
Are you let down? Yeah.
Yeah, and this is something that I really identified with. He talks about this bar because a lot of the bars he's talking about are in London and then also San Francisco. So he was talking about one called Pop Star where he was like, he described himself as like dancing like dismally. He didn't even really like the music. He didn't really want to be there, but he still went. And then he was just feeling really guilty about the role that he was playing and all of the politics that were going on like at that time period. You know, he's like so in it, but so far removed from it. It's like everyone here, we know that we're liberal and that we want gay marriage, but no one's doing anything about it.
Right. We're just partying.
And he talks about two lesbian queer writers that were in San Francisco at the time and how much he loved their books and how they talked about partying and like glamorized it and like the life. And like he says he was like really focusing on certain passages like, quote, "We felt so much better drinking and smoking and seeing a future." But he would like conveniently ignore the part about at the end of these books, both of these women got sober. Like they had to, you know what I'm saying? They had to leave the party life and get sober because otherwise it would have destroyed them, and how many friends that they had lost in the journey. And it's like that quote too, like just what you said, like exactly like, I mean, I identify with that so much because I've had friends OD in front of me. Like thankfully I haven't lost friends, but it's like it gets deep and it gets intense quickly. I've had friends get arrested. Like I've had friends be homeless. Like you watch a lot of people fuck up their lives. And I've fucked up my own life in a lot of ways, just getting too caught up in like the party culture. And it's like, because you think that it's like bringing you something, you think it's bringing you community, you think it's bringing you fun, you think it's, but like the more that I look at it now, it's like, oh, it's so lame to get sober. Oh, it's so lame to stop partying, like all that stuff. But I'm like, I can't see a life in which it's sustainable to keep living it, you know?
Right. And this is just like, it's so like reminding me of just like how I feel about the strip club too.
Yeah.
Because it's like, to an extent, like I did want like me as a sex worker to be like a political action in a way. But it's like I wasn't really doing anything. And it's like I had to end up stop doing that, as much as I like loved it and it was like so special to me and like it always will be. But like I will literally never look at sex the same way again. And I think I was like afraid of like ever saying that, but it's true. Like I won't. I'll always have that. And like that's okay though. Like I'm okay with that now. Like I'm moving forward.
Yeah.
But it's just like, yeah. And like I feel like I did like leave so much of me behind, or like lose a lot of things about myself like through doing that. But I also like gained a lot too at the same time. But it's like, and I felt like I had to be a sex worker to like feel better about the world too, and like feel like I was like more in control, and like that I was beautiful and like all of these things. And so, yeah, like I feel like I did strip in a lot of ways to feel better and like to get that escape. Like it's very immersed in party culture. And it's like I eventually had to stop though. Just like you were saying, like these women got sober. Like eventually it's not sustainable anymore. So that just really reminds me of that a lot. Like that's exactly how I feel. So
yeah, because it's like, and I feel in a lot of ways like I've been partying way less. I just started partying like again now that I finished my sober month, but like not like I used to. Not like I used to, definitely at all. Like it used to be like way fucking more. Yeah. But even since I've backed out of it, like I still like I never don't think about what the night could hold. If I go out, I never don't love it. I hate it the next day. Like I fucking hate it. But it's like I get survivor's guilt in a fucking weird way too, because I think about like or not even survivor's guilt, because like you feel like you're gonna get more boring, or like you're like know better than these people, because this is all you know. Like I feel like for me, like a lot of party culture is like the friends that I've had, like whatever city it was in, like what that is the lifestyle. Right. But like at the same time, it's like I want better. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to talk about, you know, why do you think the party life consumes people? Because it really it consumes people. And I think everybody thinks that they are better than it. Like I am envy, like we were talking about this earlier, like off camera, like we envy the people that can just like drink or smoke or do things like normally and not have like issues with it. Like, but I don't know if you can, like if you start going out all the time and you don't, I mean, I can't imagine a world in which
it's inevitable if you like really do it. If you do it once a year, you'll be good.
Right, exactly. And that's what I think I'd like from partying now. But we asked you guys, why do you think the party life consumes people? And we have so many answers, so let's just go back and forth. And if there's one that we want to talk about, if there's one we want to talk about, we can pause.
Fuck off. Okay.
Right. Someone said it can be addicting to feel free from usually boring life.
Someone said, because that shit is fun and you can completely let loose. Can't do that in our everyday today life. Like that universe shit.
Exactly what we were talking about. Someone said because they need an escape and parties provide that. Mm-hmm.
Someone said, I'm everything I think I already am when I... Someone said, I love this. I'm everything that I think I already am when I put that fit on and get dolled up. It's like sales associate by day, superwoman by night. And that is so fucking real. And I remember like being a stripper and like working my corporate job during the day and then going there at night. Like it was a crazy feeling. And I literally felt like two different people. And like I loved it. But I feel that way even just about getting ready to do this or to go out. I feel like this is actually like who I am. Like this is like it, you know? And it's not about the makeup. Like it's like the drag thing. It's like expression. Like we're born naked, but we make choices on like what we want to look like and what we want to be perceived by. And like that's cool. Like, as much as it makes us run into issues sometimes, for sure. Like, if you look at it like that, it's like a beautiful thing. And like, I just love that. Like, Superwoman by Night. Like, who the fuck wrote that? That was so good.
I know. I love this one too. I was like, oh my God, Autumn's going to love this. The next one, someone said escapism is addictive, especially if drugs are involved.
Real. We crave community. Partying stimulates community, though it's not the full thing. Damn, it's like this bitch already seen the episode.
Literally.
But yeah,
literally.
like, especially like marginalized groups like craving that community because it's survival and they need it. And like partying can kind of emulate that, but isn't always that. Sometimes it is. And it might give feelings of that, but it's like false perception. It's not the full thing. That can't be the only thing. Because then you are destined to experience the dark side. It's inevitable if that's your only escape that you're making. And I think we both like need to find something else. Like, I mean, I just haven't been escaping, period. I'm in the box and I'm not getting out of it. So I want a party to like escape. But for you, it's like you want a party to escape and have this.
But you also, because you also talk about like living your 20s. Like you want to live your 20s, but like that looks so much more than just partying. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's how I'm looking at it now. I would love to be able to go out one night a month and like have a good time and like whatever. But I need to be living more that's not fucking wasted. Right. And like at 4 a.m., like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's other things.
Yeah. And there is other things and we need to find them. And that's not easy, but like it's going to take time. And like I do feel like even this podcast like gives me that a little bit. Like I'm living and like exercising my brain because in our corporate jobs, we don't exercise our brain in this way ever.
Express this part of our identity.
But this wouldn't be enough, bitch. I need a drink. Like,
we need to be physically around other people too. I think that's like a big thing. Like other human fucking bodies. Someone said alcohol, sex, drugs, disgusting. Okay.
Someone said we are a consumer in every other aspect of life. A party gives illusion on the other side. True, except for when you're buying drinks at the bar. I still feel like
but it's like. And low-key, like, you're the ultimate level of a consumer, though, because you are consuming so much that you're changing your state. You know? But it does give the illusion that you're not. It gives the illusion that you're free from everything. Yeah. Right. Someone said misery loves company. This is so fucking true, too. Like, if we're escaping, if we're, like, relieving stress. Everyone is depressed at parties all the time. Like, everyone is, and that's the other thing, the mentally ill. Like, I feel like I have found community, not community, but like talking about like marginalized identities and being around like other, like it's like a lot of people that party are fucking mentally ill, like a little bit. Right. So it's like you have you feel less. But is the partying making you more mentally ill? Also probably that. So.
Right, exactly. Someone said drugs in all capital letters.
Yep. Definitely something that consumes people. Someone said they don't know how to say no and get on that shit and lock in. That's definitely a thing, like peer pressure, trying to be cooler and
like don't know how to stop. Like we talked about that. The high adrenaline rush of feeling you get 100%.
Oh my God. Yep. Someone said to be social. That's definitely I mean, especially now, like there's no third spaces. We've talked about the loneliness epidemic for sure. Like people want to be around humans, but we need to find other places too. I mean,
you don't know how bad you want to be around humans until you get in like an Uber when you haven't seen anyone in a week, and then I tell them my whole fucking life story.
You
like,
forget
bro, and literally like get their Instagram and numbers. The amount of times that I've gotten my Uber driver's phone number should be like in the record world.
I usually let them like follow me on Instagram, not the phone number, but
like, yeah, I know. I need to stop with the phone number. Someone else echoed escaping reality. And then someone said a need to perform and represent as someone other than themselves. Real.
And then another person just said drugs. Okay, so we just have one more quote and then like I'm going to summarize like a concept and then close us out with what's got us so wet, so dry, and so confused about the topic. But from the book, Gay Bar, Why We Went Out, he says, if my experiences in gay bars have been disappointing, what I wouldn't want to lose is the expectation of a better night. Gay is an identity of longing, and there is a wistfulness beholding it in the form of a building, like how the sight of a theater stirs the imagination.
Damn.
And I really like that quote, right? Because it's just like this like longing, this yearning for something
poetic
that, like,
as fuck.
Right. The whole book, he is so poetic. Like, he's a really, really good writer. And really good at showing the nuances.
That wasn't a listener story.
No.
I thought.
No. What? If that was a listener,
I was
I'd
like,
be like,
damn,
hey.
our listeners are fucking. I'm sorry. I spaced out. Okay. Yes. It's beautiful, though.
That is hilarious. But yes, that is from the book. And then also in the book, he kind of reflects on the closing of gay bars, because during this period in time, a lot of gay bars were closing.
Right.
And he explains how, like, the gays were getting more scattered. You know, there were more, like, rich gay guys that work in tech that live in wealthier neighborhoods, and, like, they don't need to be in the seedy underground. They're just existing in society. Yeah. And he was kind of like, is that the ultimate civil rights achievement? Is that, like, they've just kind of, like, been meshed into society? And I think that's an interesting concept to think about, because, like, in certain ways, are we, like, holding ourselves back from making, like, the parts about ourselves that we're afraid to not have be accepted by society? Like, are we preventing that by only living that in this one space? Because I think about that all the time with myself. I mean, like, I told you guys, like, I recently told one of my coworkers about my other identity, my double life. And, like, I'm kind of tripping about it a little bit, because I'm so used to playing a certain role, and I like keeping it separate. Yeah. But would it be more liberating to, like, be my full self and own my full story in every aspect of my life?
That's what
like,
my mom thinks. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like, that would be nice, maybe.
I know. And it's like, so are we doing that to our detriment? Like, maybe, like, to a degree, it's like we were kind of forced upon this situation to, like, seek that out because of, like, outside forces. But I do think, yes, that is the goal, to, like, not have a double life and be able to, like, intertwine that, like, all the time. But that's really hard when the world we're in is the way it is. So it's like, is that even possible? Right. I don't know. Like,
right.
That's crazy.
But are double lives sustainable? I mean, I've been thinking about this, and especially if one of them is a party life, I feel like you're either going to be consumed by the party life or you have to get sober. Like, this is not a sustainable life unless you're working in the industry and you are sober, or you are the type of person that isn't prone to addiction and things like that. Like, it is a life that swallows you, where you're going to meet fake friends and, like, all of that stuff. So,
and I think it's like, there's people that, like, glamorize party culture, glamorize drugs, glorify the fuck out of it. And then there's people that are, like, so, like, think so badly about party culture and the addiction problem that it brings. Yes. But there's no one, like, talking about the paradox of both being true. So I think, again, like what you said, I really appreciate that from the book as well, because there's so much of, like, the black and white shit of just, like, partying's bad, shame, 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 or it's glamorized, like, it's fine, you know, and you'll be okay, like, stripping or whatever. Yes. But it's both and at the same time, which is, like, corny, but it's like both can be true. Like, the duality is freeing, you guys. We just have to see it and take the time to, like, understand what's happening. So that brings us to the end of the episode. We are going to wrap up with what we're so wet, so dry, and still a little bit confused about the topic. And I will go first. Coming off of what I just said, I mean, I think you and I have both been feeling things about sex and partying, and, like, the messy shit is just, like, very bad right now. And I think we're, like, down on ourselves and just, like, not seeing, like, the good part, or, like, the survival part of, like, why we do that. And, like, there is a deeper reason. And that's why, like, we've talked about, people love Brat so much, because it was celebrating, like, the messy shit, the queerness, the hypersexuality that comes with party culture. So I think it's really healing for me to talk about it in this way, and also still call out the dark partying like we did at the end. Like, this, it's not sustainable. Addiction is real, and you cannot be enthralled in party culture without being exposed to all of the dangerous parts of it. It's impossible. I thought I could be a stripper and just never have anything bad happen. It's somewhat impossible. Like, it's really hard, because, like, these spaces, while they are celebratory, political, and amazing and freedom, like they're also dangerous. And that's like something that we're really passionate about, like getting through to people, because again, I don't hear like enough people talk about that. But yeah, just what about the feeling like of freedom and like that unspokenness where you can't really describe it, but how you feel when you're in a space that celebrates your identity, you're partying, you're tipsy, you're flirting. Like I fucking live for that shit. Like life would not be worth living without it, in my opinion. Sometimes in moderation. I need that. And we need to find other ways to escape as well, because they are out there. But I am definitely wet about those feelings, because like I do believe there's a way to do it without feeling bad the next day. It's just like sometimes we take it too far, and that's not our fault because we're escaping. And maybe what we're escaping from is really extreme right now. So we feel like we need to take it that far. But if we're in like a healthier mind set and like at a more stable place, like I don't think we will take it to that level and we'll be able to like sustain it. And part of me is like grieving, like, oh my gosh, like eventually the party days and the craziness like will actually be over, just like I've grieved like never being a sex worker stripper again, which like who knows, like I don't know, but like probably not gonna happen. And that makes me sad, because like the times were like so wet and like powerful, and like I grew, like it's really like everything to me, like for sure. So,
I mean, same, honestly. Like I feel like and that's why I wanted to talk about this episode, because it's really sex, relationships, and identity. It's so everything. Partying is so much of all of it. And partying to me is so core to my identity and has been for so long. I mean, even like from when I was like in fucking high school. So like now, like when you look at my Instagram, like most of my pictures are me out like fucking partying. Like nightlife is like core to my being. It's how I met most of my friends. It's how I met most of my hookups, like relationships, like whatever. So it's like to think about like letting it go, or even to like recognize the fact that it's not making me happy in the way that it used to, or maybe never did in a lot of senses, is heartbreaking, because I love looking good. I love flirting with people. I love drinking. I love being high. I love all of those things so fucking much. But like, I'm also like, maybe it's kind of beautiful that there's other things I love in my life more, and like this podcast, and there's things that I want, like I want to have a deeper meaning to life. And when I look at partying like objectively, like I think it's, I don't know. I wanted
seeing it.
Right. And I wanted us to answer this question a little bit too, like in our wets and dries, but is partying a net positive or a net negative? And I feel like it's neither. But I can't say that it's a net positive for me anymore. I feel like it always used to be. So what about just like doing this episode and thinking more deeply about like why I'm partying and like why I have in the past. And I think it would be incredible if I could treat it as this performance art more, like this place to like go and like discover parts of myself and like, you know, meet other people and have these fleeting experiences and all of that, and not get consumed by it. But I just don't really like know if that's possible. And so like a lot of it is dry, but at the same time, like very wet about like the ways in which like underground and party culture contributed to the growth of Atlanta, a city that I am in all the time. And there's such a rich culture here. So like Freaknik and all of that is like, so like there's so much shit that just wouldn't exist, music, dance, like all of that, without party culture. And like same with queer culture and all of that. So like it's just so like I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess for dry, like we talked a lot about escapism in this episode, and it's like I've never really thought about the like, you know, why are we really I know it's the whole episode, like why are we really partying? Why are we really going to the bar? And like the darker, deeper meanings behind that, because you don't really want to think about that, right? Like that's your fun time. Why would I want to go out and have a good time for myself? Yeah. But as we're saying, it's not sustainable, and so it's like the worse it gets, like the higher their escape goes, and like it's just like endless. Like you just want to do more and more and more because the high is not enough anymore. I've partied a lot, so what the fuck else is next? You know, like dry about that feeling, and like just dry about like how I talked about too, like grieving the loss of it like one day, and like I I do think I have like really addictive tendencies, and I do like associate like my not really partying anymore like with the strip club. Like I do think it has a lot to do with that. I think I've like lost a lot of confidence, and like partying to me like is a lot about like being confident and bold. Like that's where I get my high from. And like the few times that I have gone, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm still that bitch. Like I can still do it. But my mind tricks me that like I can't. So like I'm like scared to go unless like I'm with someone I like really care about or something. Like I'm not able to just kind of like let loose the same way. So like I'm dry about that. Like I want to party more, like even if it's stupid. Like I just want to go out. I don't need to learn anything, like be political. Like I need the rush a little bit more because like for me personally, like I need to like do that again and not just be like I can't do it anymore. Like I was a stripper. I'm insecure, like whatever, because it used to be like so amazing. And I feel like I grew so much again. So like, I want to just appreciate it a little bit longer. Like we're in our 20s only for so much longer. Like now's the fucking time. The clock is ticking. So yeah. And lastly, I'll just say like dry that like, you know, a lot of these spaces like Freaknik and like gay bars, it's like they start as something like so important and vital. And then because the party scene and all the drugs gets out of hand, and then there's like SA, and then you lose that space because party culture can only last for so long before things like get out of hand, maybe. And just that like, you know, marginalized groups are so much more prone to like addiction, mental health, and like partying and all of that. Like it fucking sucks. Like it's a beautiful thing, but it's also a really scary thing and a really real thing. So dry about the dark side for sure.
Yeah, same. I feel like I'm dry about, because even in the beginning when I'm talking about like who to be mad at, like I feel like it still is society for me. Like I don't want to be mad at the parties because the parties wouldn't exist in the way that they do to serve that escape if we didn't have something to escape from. So like that part of me is still like the angry party girl that is mad at the rest of society for not like being a safe space for me. You know what I'm saying? But like at the same time, it's like, all right, like I'm not a teenager anymore. Like I need to grow up and I need to become a full adult in like the rest of like the society and like operate in my full truth. I know, ew, right? But it is like, I do think about things in like terms of, I think partying has brought me so much, but I am dry about the fact that I think it's like taken a lot away from me too, and also held me back in a lot of ways because like, and I think it's a self-worth thing and like an ability to see beyond, to see a future in something, right? Like you can only see a future when you're drinking or you're smoking or you're in this like crazy environment. And unfortunately for me, I feel like because like I've been depressed or like mental health or whatever situation I was in, the people that I was around, like that was the only time that I could see it. And that was the only time that I could find community or like a semblance of it and like perform my identity. And I think thanks to the podcast, honestly, and like just growing up, frontal lobe developing, I'm realizing that like that is not the only option when I thought it was for so long. But I'm still just dry about like you said, like having to let it go at some point, or just being the type of person that is not like able to have to go out and have 2 drinks. You know, like that is not something that I think I'm like physically capable of. But yeah, I'm just like overall dry about the dark reasons that I feel like we need to party, we go to party, because I think that is the source of what ends up you being consumed by it. Like that's why you're seeking out another high. Right. That's why you're not dealing with your shit. That's why like whatever. So it like as much as it's like I love to go out and have fun, when I really think about how many times that's realistically fucking happening, it's not like that many. Yeah. But like,
because we kind of talked about this, but not really. But like partying as like a coping mechanism, or like kind of dark, but like partying as self-harm. Like I've kind of felt both of those things before. Like I'm laughing, like we're laughing because we laugh when it's uncomfortable. Yeah. But like for real, like that's definitely a thing too, to like add to dry. But for confused, like I don't know. And I also want to say too, actually, like I don't know if we'll have to like let it go. I guess this is what I'm a little confused about. Right. Like or maybe it's just gonna look differently. But I'm still sad that it'll never be like the same. Like there's really nothing like the feelings when you're young, like under 21, like when we were 19 in Boston, like bitch,
Yeah.
I really felt like I was on top of
And
the
doing
motherfucking
drugs
world.
for
Like the
the
high
first
was
time
crazy.
too.
Like
yeah,
yeah.
Like going out for the first time, doing drugs for the first, all of those first time experiences are incredible.
Like, and you
know?
don't appreciate it in the moment. Like I did,
Yeah.
but I wasn't like thinking about it now. And it's like, we're fucking 26, almost 27. Like we need to chill out. But it's like, that is a thing. Like ageism. Like, I don't know. Like I'm scared of getting older 100%. But I don't know, just confused about like how can partying be something so beautiful and revolutionary but also hurt us so much, and also it's not even our fault because it's partly because of how the world is. Like if there wasn't so much like fucking homophobia, like maybe gay people could find themselves in the park and meet each other rather than just like underground doing cocaine and like the bars, you know? Like maybe it's fine that it wasn't, like we still like got what we could out of that situation, but I don't know. It's just like, how can partying be so many things at once, but people take it so lightly? It's just like going out, like blah blah blah, but it's so much more than that.
Oh my
God. It really is a culture. It's an alternate universe that we go into, where we find ourselves, where we hurt ourselves. Like it's everything at once. So yeah, it's going to be a confusing journey to go, but I'm strapped in, bitch. I'm ready.
Okay, yes. Yeah, definitely confused about my relationship to partying still too, because I still feel like I might take another sobriety break, but like I'm not ready to be sober forever for the rest of my life, and I'm not ready to give up partying for the rest of my life. I think it's just about rethinking my relationship with it. And that is confusing to think about because it's like building new habits, like all that stuff. Yeah, exactly. I think I'm also confused about like, I like the performance art aspect of things. Cause another thing that I like didn't really bring into this episode that I was thinking of though, is like when things become mainstream, like Brat and like the underground party culture and even like Chappell, Roan and like drag and stuff like that, they become like ultimately more socially acceptable.
Right.
But it is like opposite in a way too, because we're also under Donald Trump presidency, which is like very like conservative, very anti all of those things. And so also like when things become like mainstream culture, they get appropriated. Like I remember that tweet that we had talked about in some episode where it was like all the like Bushwick whatever girls are getting sober while your favorite like Kardashian is like doing this aesthetic. And that's how I very much felt like when the Brat album came out. Like I was almost pissed because it's talking about doing cocaine and doing all this stuff when I'm like, I had stopped doing cocaine and I had stopped partying. Like I was like in my like more chill era, and it kind of like pisses me off because it's like you have FOMO in a way and you're like, oh, all this shit is mainstream when I had been doing this stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying?
And I've experienced
the same time,
the bad shit.
Right. But at the same time, like CharlieXCX is someone who really lived that shit. So like, it's not appropriating it. It's just the way. But at the same time, like the author had talked about, when things become like when gay people scatter, like the identity situation, they just blend into regular society. And isn't that like a civil rights achievement? You know what I'm saying? Like, don't we want to be more accepted of the taboo things, like all of that stuff? So I don't know. I'm just like a little confused about like the political identity aspect of partying and like the marginalized identity aspect of partying and what that looks like under Trump administration and what community looks like, because I think the same thing goes for the Stonewall riots and the gay rights movement of that time period. We still need to get out of bars and into the streets. Like there is organizing that needs to be going on amongst communities of marginalized people, which exist in a lot of party spaces. Like, you know, not everyone has to be political. You have the right to be joyous and party and have fun and all of that stuff. But also if you're destroying your life because you have this hole in the society that doesn't want you to be a human, then maybe you need to get political, because I think that might fulfill you more than like losing your life in the underground clubs. You know, so
that about does it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you're on YouTube, please take a second, subscribe, like the video. If you feel inspired, comment below. We would love to talk to you guys in the comments. If you're on Spotify or Apple, you can follow us there as well. And please give us a rating. In those places, you can do written reviews on Apple, even if it's just a few words, bitch. Tell us how you feel. And we always post polls for upcoming episodes on our Instagram. So make sure you're following us at So Wet So Dry. The O's are zeros to be a part of that. Submit stories for the episode that we can read aloud and talk about. And follow us on TikTok too. We like to post there sometimes as well.
Yes, we also have listener support. It's 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99 a month. It is in the bottom of the description of every single episode, no matter what platform you guys are listening on. And we love you guys so much. We will catch you in the next episode. Bye!
Terms like cringe are disproportionately used against autistic people, because if you really look at the majority of like TikTok cringe compilations or cosplay cringe compilations, the vast majority of the video is just neurodivergent people that are doing normal fucking things. But because maybe their body language is slightly unconventional or the way they talk is like quite uncommon, people will just make it the laughing stock of the fucking week.